There'll be two types of people who really benefit from the single trap. If you've been single for a long time and you're wondering, why can't I meet the right person? This is a book that's going to help you understand that. And the other type of person who's going to find this terribly useful is somebody who's actually been in a relationship for a long time. For whatever reason, it unfortunately hasn't been successful. And they're finding themselves single again and wondering, will I ever find love again? Well, the answer is you will, and this book will explain how. It is terribly important before you start looking for love that the first thing you do is work on yourself, because there is one key idea in the book, and that is that like attracts like. By this I mean, if you're in a bad place, you're feeling desperate, unfortunately the people you're going to attract are desperate people. And unfortunately two desperate people or two people who are looking for reassurance from each other are not going to be in a very good place to make a relationship. So if you get yourself in a place where you're balanced and happy, you're going to meet other people who are balanced and happy, and two balanced and happy people will make a great relationship. It's also terribly important to unhook the past before you move on to the next relationship. Otherwise you bring in a whole load of baggage with you. So you're not only trying to deal with anything that's going to come up when you meet somebody new, but you've also got your old relationship sitting on your shoulders. And for people who've been single for a long time or have had a lot of short-term relationships, there's often quite a lot of baggage to unpack. And in particular, the baggage that comes from the very past, because the very first relationship in your life, for example, for women, the father in their life, and for men, their mother, this can have quite an impact on the kind of relationships you tend to choose in the future. So sometimes you have to make peace with your parents as well before you're ready to find love. Once you've got yourself balanced and you're ready to look for love, I think it's terribly important to stress that how a relationship starts is often how it's going to continue. So if you do game playing to attract people, you're probably going to find it very difficult to get out of that game playing kind of mode. And obviously game playing isn't a very good basis for a relationship. And I think actually that the places that you used to meet people when you were 18 are not necessarily the right places to be meeting people when you're 30-something. So actually bars and clubs, it's not a very good place to make a deep-seated relationship that's going to go on to become a long-term love affair. And how I think people should look at it is they should think about their social capital. By social capital, I mean the people that you know. And what tends to happen with people who've been single for a long time is that they tend to have a lot of bonding capital rather than bridging capital. Let me explain the difference. Bonding capital is with people who are very much like you, and these are people who are very good for helping you through bad times. So a good example of bonding capital would be the characters in Sex and the City. They meet together, it's an exclusive group, and they're all very similar kinds of people. And they very seldom actually meet boyfriends through each other. Bridging capital are people who are not like you at all, but actually bridge you out into lots of different groups. So a classic example of a good bridging organisation would be a cycling club. So you have something in interest, you go cycling together, but they come from all walks of life. And it might not necessarily be that somebody in the cycling group is going to be somebody who's going to be your long-term lover, but they're going to throw a party and you're going to suddenly meet all of their friends. Whereas actually with your bonding friends, you already know their friends from a very long way back and they're not going to introduce you to anybody new. So the first thing to do is start thinking, how can I bridge my capital rather than concentrating on the bonding? When you meet somebody for the first time, we have a tendency to make our decision what we think about that person in probably the first 5 seconds. Now, intuition is, good, but you can't actually in just 5 seconds have the whole experience of what this person is like. And I think also when we're often in that judge people kind of mood, we're quicker to get rid of them rather than to actually think if there's any bonds with them. And so my lesson really is to actually take a bit longer to make your mind up. Allow yourself the whole date before you're doing it. Or even better, if you're meeting somebody in a bridging capital kind of situation at our famous cycling club, where one of my readers actually did find love, and that's the reason why I'm using that as an example. When you're actually just riding through the countryside together, you're actually only worried about how far you are behind the people ahead and how long till lunch. and you actually begin to relate to them as human beings rather than as potential lovers, and it's then you begin to find the bond. So I think you know if you've actually found the right person because you begin to find that there's a friendship there as well as an attraction, because sometimes attraction on its own can be a recipe for disaster rather than a good relationship. You need to actually like the person as well as be attracted to them to form a good long-term relationship. My best piece of advice for somebody in the single trap is to actually believe in themselves and believe that they will find love, because there is somebody for everybody. And I get so many letters from people who say, thank goodness I've had a chance to read your book, because I'd actually given up. I've actually thought I had to be single and there was no other alternative, or to do internet dating, which is incredibly depressing and demoralising, and I've got better ways of meeting people than that. So believe in yourself, feel good about yourself, and you'll attract other people who feel good about themselves, and together you're going to make a great relationship.